Hey guys, today I wanted to talk to you guys about a very taboo topic, a topic that is charged with a lot of shame, and a topic that a lot of men don't talk about. So, in true Matt fashion, I'm going to talk about it because I think it's important to have this conversation, and I think it's important to lead the way on these topics that create a lot of shame for us, make us feel uncomfortable in the skin that we are in. So, today we're going to be talking about sexual performance anxiety and how this can lead to erectile dysfunction in men. So this video is for you if you struggle with erectile dysfunction, you struggle with anxiety, you struggle with intimacy in sex, you struggle with performing in sex, or you are a woman and you have a partner who's having these struggles. This is also for you as well, because this is an opportunity for you to share this video with the people that you love, if you know that this is an area that they struggle in, okay? So first off, I want to let you know this is going to be a longer video. I'm typically a shorter video kind of guy because I know that we all have ADHD to some degree in the tech era, and but this is a topic that needs time, okay? So if you need, pause the video, go grab yourself a tea, get some popcorn, and get comfortable because we're going to be diving into some pretty deep stuff here, and it's going to take a while for us to unpack this stuff, okay? So first off, I want to explain the difference between impotence and erectile dysfunction, okay? So this video isn't going to be for people who are struggling with impotence, because impotence means that you're not able to achieve an erection at all. How you would know if you're impotent versus erectile dysfunctional is going to be if you can maintain an erection while you're masturbating. This would typically mean that you have erectile dysfunction, and it's caused by some sort of anxious anxiety or something that's happening and occurring in the mind. Okay, so this is where we would differ. So today I'm going to be speaking to people who are struggling with erectile dysfunction. They're having a trouble maintaining erections in the bedroom, but on their own in masturbation, they're able to maintain an erection until ejaculation, okay? That would be the difference. So you might be asking yourself, why would this guy want to create this video? Why would Matt want to create this video? And I have been struggling with sharing this for a long time. It's been essentially, I'm 35 now, so I started struggling with this stuff around the age of 27, 28. And I want to share my story with you guys because I feel like there's a lot of power behind my story and a lot of relatability that's going to come from this story. And I know it's going to help a lot of men ease their anxiety just knowing that they're not alone. So that's why I chose to share this today. So this is not easy. This is something I've been really working hard towards, getting myself to a place where I feel comfortable sharing this stuff. Because I lived in punishment of these shameful experiences, punishing myself for them for many years, and I want to help people get out of the cycles of self-punishment and shame and learn to embrace their truth and just be confident in who they are, regardless of what you're experiencing. But towards the end of this video, I'm going to be sharing some really amazing strategies that have helped me pull myself out of this shameful cycle, and the things that are allowing me to be able to experience sexual intimacy in a way that is beautiful, and it's not scary, and it's not full of anxiety and fear. So that's why I'm creating this today. So I want to share my story. So this all started for me when I was around 27, 28. I developed kidney stones, and they were too large to laser out. They had to actually extract them from my kidney, and basically I had two large stones. One of them was 6 millimeters. The maximum for blasting them is 5 millimeters. So there was a very large kidney stone, and basically I went in for emergency surgery because I was in a lot of pain, and the surgery consists of taking a uroscopic basket, okay, this little device, and they go in through your pee hole, your urethra, and they go up, and it's about to get up to that point, it's about 12 inches up, so they got to go in pretty deep, and then they scoop out this kidney stone and they extract it, and then because they do so much damage in the urethra, they put this it's called a ureter stent. It's a long rubber tube they put in your urethra up to your kidney, and then they leave it in there, so then that way your urethra doesn't fuse together. Okay, as you can imagine, this was excruciatingly painful. It was a very painful surgery, and I know a lot of guys have had this, so if you've had this, you can relate, you know. And basically, I got sent home with this 12-inch ureter stent inside of me, and they left some of it out, and they taped it along the shaft of my penis. And they made me keep it in for 4 days, and then the urologist asked me to take the stent out on my own. So that was a very pleasant experience. I basically ran a bath and put some lavender oil in and started pulling this thing out of my penis. And it was probably the most pain I've ever experienced in my life. And there was like flesh coming out. And I know this is very graphic, but I want to paint the picture of what sort of damage was done physically. So then it gives you kind of an idea of how this all transpired. So basically about 6 months after the surgery, I was in so much pain. I didn't have a desire to have sex. I barely masturbated. So there was a lot of shutting down of my sexual centers. And when about 6 months after the surgery, I started to get more comfortable with sexual desire and everything. And I had my first sexual encounter after that. And it was a horrible, traumatizing sexual encounter where I couldn't achieve an erection. And for me, this was the first time in my life that I've ever struggled with this. I've never had this issue before, and it elicited so much shame inside of me that I was like, holy crap, what is this about? And so from that point, I think I developed a fear around having to experience that again, because I felt so like unmanly. I felt like I can't perform, that means that I'm not a man. A lot of my manhood was tied into how well I performed in the bedroom and these sorts of things. So I started to develop, I would almost say, like a pathology around this. I started seeing a pelvic physio to get some of the muscles that were tensed up in this area released, and there was a strong physical component to it. So I was seeing a physio getting internal pelvic physio work done, basically where she inserts her fingers in your rectum and she releases some of these tight muscles, because from the surgery I was holding so much tension in this area that a lot of my perineal muscles were really tight and taut, and they weren't allowing me to achieve blood flow into my penis, and then allowing the muscles were too tight to be able to contract and release to maintain a firm erection. So I had a few more instances after that where I would try and have sex, it wasn't working, and it was becoming a problem for me. So I had a bunch of different things done. I went on this whole chase of seeing all these different urologists, trying this, trying that. Every solution came back to Cialis, Viagra, take these pills, we don't know what to do for you, okay? This for me was very... It was not the solution I wanted. I'm not a big pharmaceuticals guy. I did try it for a bit. It worked, but it didn't work when I didn't take it. So this is not something that I've seen as an ultimate solution. My muscles became to be developed even more tightness around this, because this is where I was holding a lot of my emotions, a lot of my fear. And as human beings, we hold a lot of our fear in our pelvic region and in our hips, and a lot of emotions get stored there. So I did lidocaine injections. I did all these things. Okay, this was about a 3-year period where I was really struggling with this stuff. And as a gay man, you have the option, right, to be able to become a bottom or a top. And if you're not able to perform as a top, you can become a bottom. So I do want to say, though, that this video is for both gay and straight men. It's the same information. You're going to be able to apply it to. So I want to say that from the beginning. So from this experience, I started to develop a psychological fear, okay? And this is how sexual performance anxiety starts. It starts with one episode, and then we start to question ourselves and our confidence, and we start to really struggle in this one area. And for me, it became psychological, because I knew that I was able to have, once I started getting some of this pelvic work done and starting to open up my pelvic muscles, I was able to achieve firm erections when I was masturbating, but not when I was performing sexually. So I knew that there was a strong psychological component to this, and I tried working with different people, energy workers and stuff, and it was so rooted in shame that I had a really hard time working through this. Okay, this is when I started to open up a completely different chamber to myself, my spiritual self, and there's the physical component, which I've already explained, but there was a strong spiritual component to this work because I've always been the kind of guy that I've been very romantic, and I've desired to be with one person and have one person that I can have sexual intimacy and emotional connection with. And in my very first relationship, it was an 8-year relationship, I was so repressed that I didn't allow myself to have sexual intimacy and emotional connection in the same person. I ended up opening up my relationship for 4 years, and I wasn't having sex with my partner. And we were very emotionally connected. We were like best friends, but we wouldn't have sex. And this was because I wanted to keep the two completely separate. This never dawned on me to be related to this until later on when I started to do this spiritual work. And I was being guided by the universe to work with this, how to marry these two concepts together, which is emotional connection and sexual intimacy, and bring them together, so I can be unified and share this connection with this one person that I wanted to share this with. And basically I had to learn how to I had to learn how to have sexual intimacy with emotional connection by learning to connect with myself, learning how to develop a strong sense of who I was. And this is really when things started to shift for me, and I started to learn different concepts that helped me almost like settle into myself. Okay, so the spiritual aspects of this work were very important for me, because for most of my life, up until I was about right around this time, about 27, 28, I was hypersexual, and I was having sex with multiple guys even weekly. And I would even describe myself as possibly having a sexual addiction, and using sex for external validation, and using things for all these things. So you can see how my confidence was so shattered when this happened, that my using sex for external validation and then not being able to use it anymore because you're not able to perform, it was very, very painful for me. It was almost like a grief and loss that I was experiencing. And because of this hypersexuality, I had to learn how to share in these connections with people and allow myself to be seen, right? Because when you have sex with somebody, it's a different being seen. You're feeling seen physically, right? And when when you're learning emotional connection and sexual intimacy together, you're allowing someone to see you for who you are in a deeper sense, right? You're allowing them to see your how you feel, right? How you think, how you express yourself. These are all very important and very, very important aspects of developing an intimate relationship with somebody. And this was my fear. Okay, but my fear was that I didn't allow myself to show up because I had so much shame in myself for who I was growing up gay, that I didn't want people to see me in this way. So long story short, my guides and the universe was working with me to slow me down from this sexual prowess that I was using to validate myself, and saying, no, we're gonna bring this forward. So I believe there was a physical condition, yes, but I believe there was a strong emotional and psychological and spiritual condition that I was facing to help me evolve. Okay, so things aren't always about the physical, and when you chase the physical to try and correct something that's emotional or spiritual, you're gonna feel like you're in this hamster wheel. There's never a solution, right? So for me, it was slowing down. It was getting comfortable in my skin. It was learning to work with my shame wounds. It was learning to become validated internally and not just externally through sex. And then a lot of these things started to shift. Okay, so from the age of from the age of about 27 till the age of about 33, 34, I really struggled with this. And when I started to do this deep, deep spiritual work around allowing myself to be seen, is when I really started to return to this empowered, confident version of myself where I'm able to root myself into myself so I can perform sexually. And a lot of this was done through present moment awareness, which I'll get into later on in the video, okay? So I want to talk a bit about how this shows up as shame for me, because I know a lot of people, when they have this experience of not being able to perform sexually, it elicits a lot of shame. And the shame for me was really tied to my masculinity. It was tied to how people saw me, the perception that people had of me, because I think for a lot of my life I wanted to be desired and adored and be seen as sexy or kind of like yeah, I think sexy is probably the best word to describe. I always wanted people to see me as sexy, and I think when I wasn't able to perform, it would immediately shatter me. It would shatter my confidence, and it would make me feel less manly, less sexy, less desired, and it was really tough for me. So the way that I would experience it is I would have this moment of feeling like I let my partner down, and then I let myself down, and then it would wash over me with this like warm wash of shame, and then it would perpetuate me into this spiral of low self-worth. And this low self-worth was a place that really moved me towards choosing partners who didn't see me as worthy, and accepting what I could get because I didn't feel worthy, because I didn't feel like I could perform, because it was so tied into this. And I know a lot of men can relate to this, because we as men, when we're in our masculine energy and not our feminine energy, we're very, very tied to doing. Doing is how we achieve worth. And when we don't do, we feel unworthy. And when we're rooted in feminine, we allow ourselves to be. So my journey in this work has been really about connecting more to my feminine energy. And when I say feminine and masculine energy, I'm not talking about like ho 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 and like, you know, feminine. Like I'm talking more about the duality of who we are as people. And we have the ability to receive and be and nurture, and we have the ability to produce, do, and be more active instead of passive, right? So we have these things, and a healthy human being, a balanced human being, is going to oscillate between these worlds and be able to have, you know, share in things like intimacy and connection and what, because we move between these worlds of energy in masculine and feminine. So as I started to become more confident in and comfortable in my feminine without feeling shame around it, that's when I was able to really slow myself down, get out of my mind, get into my heart, and do this healing work that needed to happen, where I could learn how to be intimate with people, and I could learn how to stop being so hard on myself and putting pressure on myself to perform. So this is what I want to teach you guys today, is how we can get into this beingness energy, where we can learn how to just be with our partner and not have to come at it from an accomplishment or a conquering or something that we need to do. That's very ego driven when we're talking about sex, when we feel like we have to conquer or perform, whereas we're not really enjoying the experience in our body. We're very mind oriented around the sexual experience, and your intimacy and your connection is going to dramatically improve if you employ some of these skills that I'm going to teach you guys today, because it's going to allow you to connect with your partner in a very deep and intimate way, and really bring forth some cool intimacy, I guess is the best word for it. So before we hop into some of the things of overcoming this, I want to talk a bit about listening to your fears, because that's what ends up happening when we're stuck in the mind. The mind tells the story of, if you don't do this, you are this, right? If you don't perform, you are less manly. Boom, right there. That belief alone, that fear-driven belief alone, is going to set you up for failure, because the whole point of being a man is that we don't just get a big fat boner and it lasts for an hour, right? That's a porno boner, and that's not real. They've injected their dick with stuff, they've taken Cialis, they've done all these things, and then we measure ourselves up against that. It's bullshit, you know. So a penis is meant to wax and wane, and you need to give your penis permission to wax and wane, right? You're going to come at it from this place where it's going to be, you know, it's going to start off really hard, and it's going to be hard, and it's going to be great, and then you might go into your mind a little bit, and it goes down a bit. It might go up after that, like, right? And the whole point of this is to get to a place where we're in our body and we're honoring our body. And as a man, I want you to think about how much pressure you've put on your penis, right? How much pressure you put on your penis. It's crazy that the amount of pressure we put on our penises, and we tell them that they have to do this or do that, or we're bossy. We're bullies of our penises, and we need to start to nurture our penis, and we need to start to care for it and send it love, because it is part of us, but it also has a mind of its own, as we know, right? It has an energy of its own. So we need to make sure that we're giving that energy honor and respect. And that's going to be a big part of this work. And this does not happen in the mind. This happens in the body. And this is the experience that I want to help you guys get to, where you can start to be in your experience of your body, without having to dictate to it how it has to show up for you. So then that your ego or your mind can feel safe in the experience of sex, because the mind should not be involved in sex, right? And intimacy, it should be coming from the body. It's a pure body experience where we're exchanging energy, and we're showing up in this beingness state with another person. The more mind you have in it, the less enjoyable it will be, and the more fear-based it will be. And the more you can get into your body, the more love-based and heart-centered it will be for you. So how can we overcome this? Okay, this is the place of hope that I want to instill in each and every one of you, because I know, first off, that I'm not alone in this, and I know that pretty much every single guy on this planet has dealt with this experience before. Just some guys pathologize it, some guys don't, right? They're able to just brush it off like it was just a one-time thing, and they carry on with their life. And some guys, if it happens once, it becomes a pathology, right? And they make it about them as a person, like, I can't do this, and then therefore we reinforce this and we lose confidence, and it's a downward spiral from there. And I know that a lot of the people that are watching this and hear me say that right now, you're like, yes, that's me, right? And I get that. I get how quickly we can downward spiral in our confidence when we're living the experience of sexual intimacy in our minds and not in our bodies. Okay, so yes, all guys experience this, and we need to know that we're not alone in this, because we have to start having these conversations, right? Women have conversations with each other about all sorts of things, and I know some women might not, but a lot of women talk about these things that they're struggling with sexually with their girlfriends, and it allows them to support each other and be a network for each other. And guys, I know it's the last thing you want to talk to your dude friend about is about how you couldn't get a boner, but when you start to share these things, and I have shared these things with very, very close friends, and they've told me that they've struggled with the exact same thing. There's very few guys that I've told this to that hasn't said, yeah, like, I've been there too. So you're not alone, okay? First and foremost, you need to understand the physiological responses of anxiety and fear. Okay, because anxiety and fear, immediately what they do is they incite your sympathetic nervous system, okay, which is basically you go into fight or flight when you get anxious. And what happens in that state is all of your blood rushes throughout your body. Okay, do you know where the blood needs to be when you want to have an erection? Not in your limbs, not in your legs and arms, because that's what happens when we have the experience of fear, is it goes into our limbs so we can run and we can fight, right? And we get adrenaline. The last thing that's going to happen in a state of fight or flight is you're going to get an erection. So we need to learn how to regulate our fear and our anxiety, and that's what I want to teach you guys today, okay? The biggest thing, the biggest skill that I have learned in this work is we need to become present. Okay, I cannot emphasize this enough. Presence is key. So presence basically means here and now, in this moment. Okay, not the past, not the future. What lives in the past and the future is the mind, right? The mind cannot live in the present moment, because as soon as you think about the present moment, you're not in it, right? So the mind can't be present. The mind can only be in the past or the future, and that's where our anxiety and that's where our fear lives. Okay, so presence happens in the body. This is when we take our internal gaze, our internal attention, and we draw it down into the body. Okay, this is key to having a positive sexual experience with somebody because you want to be present with them in a body-to-body experience where you can exchange energy and you're not having to make it about your mind. Right? And one of the bad habits that people develop in sex is they fantasize. They use their mind to try and create firmer erections or to try and ejaculate. And what that does is it pulls us out of the present moment, right? And we learn this from porn, right? Because we are so visually stimulated by porn that when it comes to being intimate with your partner, then we don't feel stimulated enough. So we have to go into our mind and we start to create fantasy in our mind. And the number one thing we need to do if we want to start to become more present in sex is we need to let go of these fantasies. Let go of your attachment to your mind and allow yourself to experience surrender in the body where you can be one with your partner, right? That's what true and beautiful intimacy is about, is being one with your partner. So that's going to be key. So the body experience versus the mind experience of sex is so different. And I think that's what spiritual and sexual maturation is about, is as we get older, we learn these things, right? And that's what I needed to learn in my work, is my hypersexual self needed to learn how to move from my mind experience of sex to my body experience of sex. And I know for me, one of my biggest turn-ons when I was in my 20s was dominating another guy. I loved being dominant because it was an ego experience for me. My ego was what was giving me a firmer erection. And because my spiritual self wanted to evolve, that dissipated. So one of the biggest turn-ons for me got stripped away from me because I was learning how to dissolve my ego. And that's where I had to relearn how to achieve erections in other ways, which is through intimacy, connection, touch, sensuality, these things that I'm now learning how powerful they are to give me like really firm erections and allow me to be really turned on with my partner, okay? So one of the things that I teach in my book, and yeah, this is a shameless plug, but it's super valuable because I wrote this book when I was in Asia, and I wrote it while I was going through a lot of this work. And basically it's called Be the Space. It's a loving guide to creating inner space through present moment awareness, the wisdom to overcome suffering. One of the things that I wrote on the back that this book is good for is performance anxiety for erectile dysfunction, because it's presence, right? You're learning how to be present, and that is key. So one of the most powerful tools that I use to change this dysfunction, or whatever you want to call it, for myself is something called one-pointed concentration. And basically this is the ability to master your mind. And if you want to befriend your body and become more in one with your body, you need to learn how to master your mind. Because as soon as you enter the body, your mind starts to chime in. It becomes monkey mind. And then you get pulled back up into the mind again. So one-pointed concentration is such a simple activity. I recommend it to all of my clients, but it has the most punch. It's so potent when you do it with consistency. So the one simple exercise I have in my book is basically you count from 1 to 10, and then from 10 to 1. From 1 to 10, 10 to 1. When your mind wanders, you bring it back. You keep counting, and you do this. Set an alarm in your phone for 5 minutes to start, because it'll feel really hard at first. But the whole purpose of this is to learn how to master your mind, so then you become the master of your mind, not your mind being the master of you. Right? Which is what's happening in these sexual encounters when you're feeling anxious and you're unable to perform. Your mind masters you and tells you, no, I want to be part of this experience, so I'm going to be all chattery. I'm going to tell you how you're not going to perform well. I'm going to tell you that you'll never be able to keep your erection longer than a few minutes, blah, 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 right? The mind wants to come in and insert itself. Our job is to learn how to master that. So one-pointed concentration is counting. It can be focusing on a flame. It can be putting on your favorite song and listening to that song solely, not allowing your mind to wander, not allowing your mind to become... So it's basically like, think about your mind as a wild animal, and you have just adopted this wild animal and you're learning to domesticate it, right? You're learning to tame your mind, so then that way your mind isn't going to become your master. Okay? Then once you do that, you'll find it a lot easier to enter into your body, which is where you need to be in order to have these beautiful experiences. So the other important thing that I've recently learned within the last year is controlling your pace. Okay, as we do this work where we move away from impulsive sexuality to more sexual intimacy, we need to learn how to control the pace for ourselves. So I don't do hookups anymore because I can't, right? I get too anxious. I don't have a foundation of trust and safety and security, so I can't perform. I know that about myself now. So what I do is I go on a date with somebody. I'm like, it's like I've reverted and I've gone back into like what it's like to be in grade 7 again. You know, you go on a date and you keep it all like super PG, and you know, that's date 1. Date 2 might be something like, let's get together and hang out at my house and watch some movies and cuddle, and allow my energy to assimilate to your energy. Right? That's a big part of this for me, because when somebody's energy is off-putting for me, it doesn't allow me to acclimatize to them. And then I become judgmental of the experience and I get too heady, right? I get too much in my head. So controlling the pace for me, it allows there to be a buildup. Okay, not just a buildup of safety, but a buildup of sexual tension for me. And then when it comes time to perform, I feel like I know this person, I feel safe with them, I feel like I can talk to them and tell them what my fears and concerns are, and then I'm able to have amazing sex with them, okay? So this is a big part of this work is controlling the pace. Feel safe in your experience, and listen to your body. If your body feels anxious before a sexual encounter, it might not be the best sexual encounter to be, or the best thing to be partaking in. The anxiety is your gut speaking to you, right? It's telling you, don't do this. This doesn't feel safe for me. But yet we use our mind to try and bully our body into doing it, because our mind wants to have this experience for us for many reasons, for ego reasons, for validation reasons, whatever it might be. So we put our body through this experience that maybe it doesn't want to be put through. Okay, so pace is a big thing in this work. Be mindful of porn and the expectations. I touched on this already, but porn it can be very toxic. It can be very healthy if used properly, but it can also be very toxic. And people watching it daily and masturbating daily to it, it can become visually stimulating. It can become addictive to the point where we lose ability to be able to have erections in sex because we're not as stimulated as we are while we're watching porn. That's one side of it. The other side is that we start to measure ourselves up against these porn stars, and don't compare your behind the scenes with these porn stars' highlight reels, right? That's a classic trap that you're falling into, because you don't see what they're injecting into their dick before they have sex, and these porn stars are having sex for 2 hours. It's like, come on, like there's no guy in this world without some sort of stimulation from something. Like a Cialis or an injection that's going to be able to have a boner for 2 hours. It's just very unrealistic. So don't compare yourself to porn stars. It's definitely not something that is going to create a positive experience for you. Be patient and kind with yourself. Okay, I've been doing this type of work, counseling and coaching, for going on 15 years now, which is crazy. And one of the things that everybody seems to have in common is that they're so hard on themselves. Everybody's hard on themselves. Everybody's beating themselves up. And I think when we have these experiences, be patient, be kind to yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Don't allow the shame to create you, right? And make a version out of you through shame. Let it go. Right? Let it go. Forgive yourself for not being able to perform, because it's okay, right? And a lot of this, why we do this, is because we're so wanting to control how other people perceive us, right? So if we have a sexual interaction where it doesn't go well, we beat ourselves up thinking, oh, this person now thinks I'm inadequate, or that I'm not good enough, or whatever, and that's okay, right? It's okay for people to create their perceptions of you. You'll never be able to control it, so surrender that to what you know about yourself, right? Less about what other people think about you, focus more on what you know about you, and all the things that make you beautiful. Like that's a big part of this work too. Another strategy is to speak up. Okay, and oftentimes you can discharge fear by just talking about it. Shame, same thing. How do we overcome shame, right? We bring it out of silence into connection. So if you're struggling and you're very fearful, talk about it with your partner. Tell them that this is something that you struggle with, because suddenly you're going to realize, holy crap, it's alleviated now, because they understand. They're able to support me and be patient with me in this process and be gentle with me and allow me to make my way to a firm erection without having it be a scary experience. Okay. Focus on your partner to get out of your own head. Okay, this is a really cool one, a really great one for me that really helped is instead of making it about you and being in your head, and worrying about what your partner's thinking about you, focus on them, right? Look in their eyes, kiss them and taste the taste of their kiss, right? Smell their hair, smell their neck. Really just get in touch with them and feel their presence, because their presence is going to be infectious and contagious, and it's going to draw you into your presence. So if you can practice and you're really, really struggling with this stuff, find somebody who's safe and somebody who really roots themselves in presence, and practice with them and allow them to know that this is, I'm struggling with performance sexual anxiety. Can we have this as an opportunity to practice? People are so much more compassionate and empathetic than we give them credit for, right? And they just need to know. They need to know what you're struggling with so they can support you through it. So yeah, definitely focus on your partner. Use your five senses, right? You have your five senses to always draw you out of your head into your body, right? Your sense of touch. What does their skin feel like on your skin, right? Focus on that. Focus on the warmth. Focus on the sweat that you're creating with them. What does the experience smell like? Right? Pull yourself into the sense of smell and get out of your head. What does it look like, to have this experience? What are you seeing in them? Connect to their energy, right? That's another one, a way that you can feel into them. Sounds. Maybe put on some music to pull you out of your head, and have some gentle music in the background to help you with that sort of experience. So these are all really great strategies. I do want to say one thing before we wrap up, is that sex is something that should be fun, enjoyable. It can be sacred, and it is one of the best ways that we can use to express our authenticity. Okay? Because when we're out of our head and we're in our experience with somebody and we're sharing that, we're letting them see us, we're letting them feel us. And there is nothing more vulnerable and nothing more beautiful than showing up authentically and allowing somebody to share in this energetic and physical exchange with you. And so if this is something that you're struggling with, and you feel like that sex is no longer enjoyable for you, then reach out to me, and we can set up, I offer one-off sessions. If you just want to talk about your specific situation and maybe get some pointers from me, a one-off session, great. Let's set up a time to talk and do some coaching around this, because this is an area, like I said, I've been there. I know exactly what it's like to struggle with this, so I know exactly what I can do to help you pull yourself out of this it's shame. It really is shame. So when we can start to work with the shame and externalize it and talk about it and bring a voice to it, it melts away. That's the beautiful thing about shame, is that it comes on strong, but it goes away just as fast when we learn how to challenge it and to be with it instead of running away from it and putting it in secrecy. We stop judging it and we connect to it. It completely goes away. And this is the same to be said with others. One of the ways to overcome shame is to work with it and become conscious of it within yourself. But the best and most effective way to overcome shame is vulnerability, which for me, this video was very vulnerable, and I already feel lighter, and I feel like I discharged some energy that was pent up inside of me around this topic. So I'm using connection and vulnerability to heal shame. So I would invite you to do the same. And if I feel like a safe person that you would want to have this conversation with, please reach out and let's have this conversation. Okay. As always, sending you guys so much love. And if you know somebody that could use this video, please share it with them. And obviously don't do it in a public way, because it might be shaming for them, but find a way to get this video in their hands so they can pick out all the gems that I was able to offer you guys today. Okay. Take care.